me start recording. Welcome to the week 4 go-to session. Excuse me. This is the final session we're hosting this month, so we're pretty much at the end. Yay! Yeah, we're in week 4, so obviously this lecture is going to be over week 4 material. As you can see here on my screen, week 4 is a little bit different than other weeks. You still have one final journal response. This one shouldn't be too difficult because this lecture is going to be shorter than most, and I think your reading load is lighter as well. But notice there are a couple differences. There's peer review, which I'm going to spend most of the time talking about. But there's also this guy here, a bonus revision plan, and revision. Let me start with those, okay? The revision plan, it's the one kind of extra credit activity we have for this course. You can read through the instructions on your own, but basically you have to address these 4 things here, okay? You'll summarize the feedback from me and from the 2 peers, because we're going to talk about peer review in just a second, but you should be getting feedback from 2 of your classmates. If you get 1, then just summarize that 1 person's feedback, and then you address what changes you're going to make in your revision based on that feedback, both the instructor's feedback and your peers' feedback, okay? I guess the only thing I should define here are the terms global and local. As you can see in part 3 of the question, the 4 prompts you need to answer. It says, after considering the feedback you receive from your instructors and your peers, what global changes do you tend to make? So these are like big picture changes, okay? So things related to thesis, content, organization. Global, in this case, does not mean like global hunger or global poverty. And local, for part 4, it asks what local changes. So this is smaller stuff. Issues of like grammar, proofreading, etc. Okay, so just so that you're familiar with those terms. Now, I will say it might be worthwhile for you to determine whether or not you really need to do this bonus assignment. Where is it? Yeah, okay, so here it says that you can earn anywhere between 1 and 5 points, depending on how good your revision plan is. They'll be put towards professionalism. The problem here is that because I pretty much give high professionalism grades, the only things I take off are, for example, missed assignments, or someone just acts egregiously bad, which is very, very rare. So, I mean, most people are getting A's for professionalism. So if I don't have points to give to professionalism, I'll just tack it on to usually your revision assignments, okay? So just be aware of that. But here's the thing. Like, let's say your grade is an A, right? Like, you could practically bomb the revision assignment and still earn an A. Or you're a B. You're a B no matter what you do. Determine how badly you need these 1 to 5 points. If you don't need them, I would say give yourself a break and don't do this bonus assignments, okay? I mean, you can do it if you want to, but you certainly don't have to. So yeah, there's a little bit of extra credit there. And let's go ahead and address revision, because revision is exactly what it sounds like. But please note, it's worth 15% of your total grade. Okay? So no other assignment the entire month is worth so much. And I mention this because, here, I'm going to go into the activity. And again, you can read these instructions on your own. But essentially, it's pretty obvious what you need to do. You're going to get feedback from me. You're going to get feedback from 2 of your classmates through peer review. And then you're going to revise your essay draft, right? You just handed in your essay draft. A few of you, I think, are still working on it because I offered some extensions. But yeah, based on that feedback, you'll go back and revise. But here's you also have an example. I'm in the week 3 assignment. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Excuse me. So for this assignment, you do have an example, just one example this week, right? So click this link to see an example. You can see the revised Diet Coke essay. She's got a longer, slightly more ambitious introduction. I think other parts have a bit more meat to it. This was a really short paragraph in the original. It's not much longer now, but I think it's a bit longer. So yeah, she's gone back in and revised. Okay, so you have an example of a revised essay. If you want to compare that to the essay draft version, that might be useful. But essentially, yeah, revision. Okay, so for some of you, there might be big picture things to address, like thesis, content, organization. Others of you, it might be more issues of cleaning it up. Okay, so grammar, proofreading, APA. Excuse me, APA is a big one for some people because maybe APA was close, but not quite there in the essay draft version. Okay, so it's basically a top to bottom revision. Now, the reason why I pointed out that it's worth 15% of your grade more than any other activity all month is because, yeah, be careful. There is a penalty for lack of revision. Okay, I think it's 20 points. I forget where it is. It might be on the rubric. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Actually, no, this is the 5 points for proofreading errors. Oh, here it is. Lack of substantial improvement to quality work in your revision will result in a deduction of up to 20 points. Okay, I really hate to do that. I try not to do it. But here's the thing. Yeah, it's a revision assignment. It's worth a lot. So why would I give lots of points for something worth so much if essentially your revision is the exact same as your essay draft? Now, let's say you received a very high grade on your essay draft. Does that mean you have to revise substantially? No. Okay, maybe your issue will be proofreading and cleanup. Maybe fixing a small APA issue here or there. Okay, so yeah, it's within context. So some people might have less revision, some people might have more revision, but it is a revision activity. Now, I'm not a mean instructor. You've probably noticed that I'm pretty flexible with due dates and accepting late work and all that kind of stuff. I try to be fair as well, so I always take a sneak peek at a student's assignment, and I try not to hit them with that huge penalty if it's going to make the difference between like one letter grade and another. But sometimes, yeah, I will take points off if it's like, oh wow, is this the same paper that I read 2 weeks ago or a week ago? Okay, so be careful of that. I have to do something gross and blow my nose real quickly, so that's going to be a delight for the people who watch this after the fact. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to take my headset off to make it less gross. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, okay, so we talked about this bonus activity. Right, where is it? Bonus revision plan. Revising is exactly what it says it is. You'll revise your paper. So mostly we just have to talk about peer review. The journal response is like always. So peer review, and here's something I have to announce. Maybe this will be a good detail you can share in your weekly journal where you summarize the lecture and the reading. Peer review, it ends Friday, okay? And this is the one activity I cannot extend. Not because I'm mean, it's just that it's handled through turnitin.com, and once the activity is underway, it's already underway. When it ends, it ends. Like, I can't go in and change the date. Plus, in theory, this class ends on Sunday, so I'm not sure how useful it is to get peer reviews on Saturday or Sunday. I should mention real quickly, too. I think this is maybe a good thing, but class technically is supposed to end this Sunday, right? It's week 4. Sunday revisions are due, but you know that I think I've explained to you in one of the announcements that I'm teaching 3 classes this month instead of the usual 2. That's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. It's an explanation for why it sometimes takes me longer to get through grading things. Last week I was actually a lot faster. I got through the outlines in 3 days, 72 hours, which is what we're supposed to hit as our goals. But yeah, 72 hours because we had extended the previous assignment meant that I didn't get through them until Friday. And because of that, I cannot insist on people reading that feedback and applying it to a full essay draft and get that handed in by Sunday. So yeah, I asked people to try to get it in by Monday. If people needed beyond that, they could have it. If it's not enough, I'm pretty flexible with that. That said, again, I'm going to try to get through as many essays drafts as I can tomorrow, which is Wednesday, but I'll probably need Thursday as well. The good news, though, is that none of you or me have a new class starting next week, as you usually do, right? Class ends, but then class can continue. I know you don't want it to continue, but what I'm saying is that we have that time if we need it, okay? So consider the Sunday due date for the revision a soft date. If you need more time, certainly let me know. I'll probably already be offering that kind of extension in a message anyway. especially if I'm still grading essays on Thursday or even into Friday. But you have that extra time if you need it. It's still early enough, too, that we're not really coming up against Christmas or anything, so it's not like I'm forcing this to go into the holidays. So we have a little bit of extra time next week if we need it. Okay, does that make sense to people? In fact, if you're really in need or desperate, you can have as much time as you want next week. I don't have to get grades into the register until after January 1st, so we have the time if we need it. So nobody should feel rushed. Like, oh my gosh, I've just gotten feedback from my instructor, my peers, and now he wants this turned around by Sunday because it's the end of the class. No, consider that a soft date. And now, if you're ambitious and you can get things done and you want the class behind you, great. But we have that extra time if we need it, okay? In fact, I'm even working with a handful of students who have been kind of MIA. So I've told them, sure, you can catch up in the class. We have all of December, so some students might be working through the holidays. Yeah, I try to help as many students pass as possible, okay? I'm not looking to have students take the class again. Yes, you're welcome. To the one person who said thank you. Actually, I'm not expecting a thank you. There are other instructors who are grading machines, and they can get your feedback returned in 24 hours. I can't do that. I meant to do it with the outlines because the outline template, remember I said it's a slimmed down version of the outlines. So I promised myself I'm going to bang through this. After all it's asking for is your thesis, a few topic sentences, and research. And I still could not prevent myself from making comments in the outline, writing up full comments, and that takes time. Okay. Stephanie says this has been the hardest class so far. Oh, wow. A lot of people say that. I get that, in the sense that I do think it's probably tougher than the classes you've taken so far. On the other hand, I'll be a little bit defensive and say I don't think it's that difficult. Yes, there's a lot of work to do, so in that sense it's hard. But I don't think it's a difficult class to pass because really, students who attend or watch lectures have almost zero problems, right? Okay, so let's talk about the one thing that really needs attention, which is peer review. It's already underway. You don't have to have an essay submitted to even begin the peer review process. Okay, although you are under some pressure to get your essay turned in the next couple of days. But yeah, peer review is handled completely through Turnitin, so let's go there. I'm already logged in, and I'm going to show you the 4 prompts that you need to answer. So let's go into peer review. Okay, that's not the way I wanted to go in. Let's try this way. Almost there. One more, I think. Okay, so obviously I can't show you what it looks like from the student's end, but essentially you'll see 4 prompts. Okay, and each prompt has multiple questions. So you can see the first one is state which ad was chosen. That's pretty easy. So if your peer has chosen the McDonald's first day ad, your answer is McDonald's ad first day. What is the thesis as you see it? What are the main points? In other words, what are those 3 thesis points? And if the student is still having trouble with thesis, be sure to point that out, okay? You can absolutely say, I'm unclear what the thesis is, or I'm not sure I see a thesis here. Or I think this is the thesis, but I don't really see 3 clear points. Because ultimately you're trying to help your classmates, okay? What hook did the writer use? That's just a fancy way of saying make some sort of judgment call about how the essay begins. Anyway, I'm not going to read all the questions out loud, but yeah, there are multiple questions under each prompt. And as you can see, there's a minimum answer length of 100. Now, when you are in this activity, you'll have a little bar up here that shows you how close you're getting to 100 words. I rarely actually copy and paste your text and do a word count because I can pretty much tell if it's kind of close to. If you're answering these questions with thoughtfulness and care, you shouldn't really have a problem reaching 100 words. For example, if I were to take these words here, this is probably already like 50 words. So this is already halfway toward the 100 word length. And again, if you're answering these questions with specificity and care, you shouldn't have a problem reaching 100 words. What else should I point out here? Okay, here, based on the reflection you've done above, in other words, based on question number 1, what questions do you have about how your peers presented the essay? What would you like clarification about? What ideas? These shouldn't be questions of curiosity, okay? So these should be specific questions you have about the paper, like the writing of the paper. Not questions like, so why did you choose this ad? Or what do you love about Call of Duty? Okay, they're not questions of curiosity. They're questions specifically related to the essay itself. And then so on. 2 suggestions for improvement, emphasizing positives you see, etc. Here's the thing. This activity should be an easy A, just as I grade your weekly journals, and as long as I see that you've obviously read the assigned textbook and you've watched the lecture, I'm happy to just slap 100 on there and say, nice job. I kind of want to do the same thing here. Okay, because really, I'll give some tips and some cautions, some things to watch out for this assignment. But otherwise, yeah, this should be, everybody should be getting a 90 or higher. Okay, so how do you do well on this task? The first thing is, I have to get a sense, based on your answers, that you've read the essay, okay, and that you've read it with care. I think it might help, be careful when I say this, okay, but it might help to think of yourself as kind of, not the teacher necessarily, but someone who has that kind of advice to give. So if it helps you to think back to what I've been talking about all month in the lectures or in my own feedback to you, certainly draw upon that. Like, put yourself in the mindset of someone who is helping your classmate. Because here's the thing, we've had 4 lectures so far, right? You've received lots of feedback from me. At this stage, you should be pretty clear about like what the thesis should be doing, the 5-paragraph structure, things like that. Okay. So yeah, draw upon that. Be careful about things like tone. You certainly don't want to speak down to your classmate or things like that. But yeah, if you can watch tone and things like that and put yourself in the mind as an authority of sorts who is trying to give helpful feedback, that might help you kind of get in the mindset of what you need to do. I recommend, yeah, you'll do the papers one at a time. So again, I can't show what it looks like on the student side, but you basically have a button that says something like start review, and you'll get one paper distributed to you. You don't have to do it in one sitting. You can come back to it. But I believe you have to take them one at a time. So my advice is to read the essay somewhat carefully and have it open as you answer these questions, because you'll almost certainly have to go back to the essay. I do it when I'm grading your work. I can't show it right now, but when I'm in Turnitin.com, I have my area to type to you on the right side of the page, and then I have your essay on the left side. And they're completely separate, so I can like scroll up and down your essay to look at a specific paragraph and then go back and type. So yeah, have the paper open and answer these questions with care, because that's what I'm looking for. Have you read the paper? Are you being specific? Specificity is important. For example, it says, what would you like more clarification about? Or here, 2 suggestions for improvement. If you say that you thought that paragraph 3 was unclear, okay, but if you just leave it at that, your classmate may not understand what's unclear. He or she may read it and think, well, it looks clear to me. So be specific. What is it about the paragraph that's making it unclear? Or where else in the paper would you like to see more development, and why? Okay, so push yourself to go beyond just pointing something out generally and explain why. Now, pitfalls, things to be careful of. The 2 things I would say here, number 1 is just the flip side of what I just mentioned. Responses that are very short, super general, that do not show me that the essay has been read with much care. And if you're feeling a little bit anxious, maybe you're thinking, well, I don't know how to respond to writing because I'm not the teacher, or I'm not the greatest writer in the world, so what could I possibly say? Again, think of what we've been talking about all month. Okay, most of these questions are pointing in those directions. What is ad analysis? What is a thesis? 5-paragraph structure, topic sentences, all those basics. APA, okay, all those issues you can draw upon. But the second thing to watch out for, and I'd say this is kind of like the number 1 issue, the number 1 thing besides, rushing through it and being super general, is not taking the time to proofread. There's something about online assignments. Maybe it's because normally when you type online, whether it's in a discussion board or a Facebook update, you're not really paying attention to things like grammar or punctuation or capitalization. Don't do that here. Okay, because yes, you're going to have text boxes underneath each of these prompts, and every piece of writing you do for this class should be aiming for the highest level of professionalism. Okay, and I understand that not all students are expert writers, but I do expect you to avoid like obvious mistakes, like not putting a period at the end of the sentence or not capitalizing the first letter of a new sentence, things like that, or typing lowercase I instead of capital I, not putting an apostrophe in a contraction, right? So you just type, I'll type something in the chat, right? So you type like I am instead of I'm. The people watching this can't see the chat, but they can at least hear what I'm saying. Things like that are supposed to be an automatic 5-point deduction. I'm pretty easygoing in the sense that everybody can make mistakes. Sometimes I read my own feedback and I see that there's a typo because I'm grading your work so quickly with depth and with detail, but still I finish and I move on to the next one. So yeah, mistakes happen. But if I see one thing, okay, I'll let it slide. Two, that can happen. But when it becomes 3, 4, 5, 10, sometimes I've seen 20 instances where the whole response is typed in lowercase, or there's, again, it's what you do when you're typically online or when you're texting. Like I'm the only moron who sends out texts with like perfect punctuation. um, or I'm the only person who goes online on discussion boards and like types in perfect prose. But yeah, keep in mind, this is an English assignment, okay? So yeah, it's probably the number one issue I see. It's not just an occasional slip. It's just that clearly the person sat down, typed in one sitting each of the text boxes, the responses, and then boom, moved on. So be careful, okay? Because yeah, when those obvious errors start piling up, that's when I start taking off points. But otherwise, yeah, it should be an easy A. But keep in mind too, you have until Friday, okay? So please, because every month there's a handful of students who say, "Oh my gosh, I missed peer review. I'm so sorry. Could you please give me an extension?" And that's why I have to say, don't you remember the lecture where I said this ends on Friday and this is one activity I cannot extend? So yeah, don't burn yourself. Okay, let me just make some wrap up comments before we go. First of all, thanks for your hard work all month. People have been doing awesome work, I'd say, as a whole. When I was grading the outlines, when I graded the week 1 worksheets, I think the majority of people have been doing super well on assignments. So I appreciate that, really. It's been terrific. I do want to say, however, that it's more important to keep in mind the big picture concepts we've been teaching this month. For example, how often do you see a perfect 5-paragraph essay in the real world? Never, or almost never. How often do you see a perfectly telegraphed thesis that lists its 3 discussion points, and then those become the topics of the body paragraphs? Very rarely. Oddly, you see it like in super formal papers, like scientific research papers. Like in that kind of paper, you will literally see a thesis that says, like, this research study will examine these 4 key issues. And then, yes, that's what's going to be discussed in the meat of the paper. But actually, in real-world writing, you do have more flexibility. For example, you rarely see telegraph thesis statements. What you see more often are like strong main ideas. So instead of a sentence that ends your introduction that says, the McDonald's ad uses blank, blank, and blank, you'll see a more general statement that communicates the same thing, but without actually listing, if that makes sense. Same thing with like 5-paragraph form. In real world writing, someone may spend 2 paragraphs talking about the ad's use of color because maybe there's enough information to be spread over 2 paragraphs. But still, the general concepts we've been teaching are true, that most writing has some sort of beginning, middle, and end. The beginning and end tend to be more general, okay? So a general opening, general closing. And yes, the middle part of the writing presents its ideas one at a time, each in its own paragraph. And if you can remember those basics, you can pretty much handle any kind of writing you do. And I'd even encourage you to put it to the test. Next time you're reading an article online, see if it follows that general framework, okay? You're not going to see that kind of, again, super telegraph thesis, but see if you can spot, like, yes, this is the general opening to the piece. This is the general closing. And in between, my instructor was right. The writer is addressing in separate paragraphs different topics. Okay. Same thing with introductions, by the way. An introduction could be 2 paragraphs. It might take you 2 paragraphs to write a general opening to a piece. It might take you 3 paragraphs. Same thing with a closing. You might have 2 closing paragraphs because it takes you that long. So understand that there's a lot of flexibility in writing. But these general concepts of a beginning, middle, and end, keep those in mind because you will have to write in future Full Sail classes. And if you can keep those basics in mind, you should be in good shape. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to cover? There was, but it just flew out of my head. Anyway, questions, comments, anything else we should go over? I told you I'd keep this short because, yeah, we're in the final week. So if you're clear and good and comfortable with what we've gone over, you're free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you for showing up tonight. And for some of you, it's been all month. I will hang out a bit, though, and answer questions if people have them. And it can be about anything. This week's stuff, the class as a whole. I do have to apologize because I know it drives people crazy. The platform auto grading, I have to figure out how to turn that off because it makes students panic because if they don't click complete, which is going to happen when I, for example, tell you that you can have until Monday or Tuesday. But if I forget to change the actual due date, then you get this big honking 0 staring you in the face. No, that's not me giving you an assignment as a 0. That's the platform auto-grading anybody who didn't click the complete button. I think everybody knows at this point that those zeros will be replaced once I review your work, but still, I do apologize because, yeah, kind of makes people have a heart attack. So anyway, questions, comments, anything before we shut things down? It's been a good month. I was honest. I thank all of you for your hard work. Especially this month. It gets difficult to focus with the holidays so close. People itching to get done with the course and on to holiday break. I'm looking forward to holiday break, even though it won't be much of a break for me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.